this is something that I maybe want your advice on, but I feel myself sometimes holding myself to like a really high standard of making sure, practicing mindfulness, making sure I'm going to therapy. I kind of get discouraged because I hold myself to such a high standard. How to like combat those thoughts of I feel like I'm not doing enough like to actually be sitting here doing this.
Yeah, not like feeling worthy to be preaching the stuff that we talk about. Am I worthy of, having a mental health podcast? And
Yeah.
we don't always do things the right way.
Yeah.
That makes you the perfect person. That feeling makes you the perfect people to do the show. The other two choices are you think you're so perfect, or the other option is you think you're so unqualified that you never do anything. When I was with the monks, humility was seen as the most aspirational quality that a human could ever aspire for. I love that your lemon drops have you to listen to. Like that's what makes you both perfect hosts, because you're not coming at this from a point of view of we know and you don't. You're coming at it from a point of view of, hey, we're struggling with this and we're figuring it out and I'm trying to share it.
Jay, welcome to the Squeeze.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Of
so
course.
grateful to be here.
Oh my gosh, I mean, this has been a dream of ours for a while, ever since we started the podcast, to be honest with you. So the fact that it's come together is just such an insane honor.
Well, that is very humbling. I'm so grateful, and congrats on everything. It's awesome to see what you both are building and doing together, and even the few moments we've just spent together now. I'm so happy to be here. So
I mean, honestly, when we started this, you were and you continue to be the goal. What you do is a large reason why we wanted to start doing this. So it's, as people in the mental health space, like we all strive to be more and more like you. So thank you for being that for us.
Wow, that means the world to me, honestly. I don't even know how to respond to that. So speechless. That is so generous and so kind, and I am so thankful to hear that, and I'm here to help you and support you and serve you in any way I can. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So fun. Okay, so we start each episode off with a game called Citrus Got Real. This jar has some questions in it. If you would like to pull one of those little pieces of paper out.
That's so cool. All right. Well, I'm already learning from you guys. This is amazing.
These are listener questions.
Okay, great.
And they're all very random, so we don't really know what we're going to get.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What's the weirdest item you keep by your bed?
Weirdest item you keep by your bed?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I keep anything weird next to my bed. Like I'd say I have a hatch. Do you know what a hatch is?
Oh yeah.
It's like things I think babies use, so maybe it is a bit weird, but it wakes you up with like this light, and it's got beautiful sounds and tones, and I've had that for a while. I generally wake up before it wakes me up, but it ends up being there. I have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the text from India that I studied. And so that's not weird. That feels fairly normal. And that's it, really. My bedside table is really boring. That's it.
Oh, that sounds really nice and clean.
I feel like I might like this hatch thing.
I wasn't going to call you out, but I actually think you could really benefit from that.
Can it be like a noise machine too? Because I need a noise machine.
That's a great question. I don't know if it has that functionality. Yeah, I have no idea. I'd have to find out. But it does have really good sounds to wake you up with. Like far better than any alarm tone or whatever it may be, especially if you don't want to sleep with your phone next to your bed. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. What's in your nightstand?
I'm trying to think.
You have a lot of like cough drops from when we were sick like a month ago that are still just sitting there.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, my nightstand needs a clean out.
Oh, you know what's in yours?
Ow.
Sorry. The little like head scratcher thing that's like this?
Yeah.
I feel like that's really random.
Oh, I want one of those as the massage thing.
Yes.
I've been wanting one of those. Are they good?
They are, but only when somebody else does it to you.
Right.
If you grab it and you do it to yourself, it's just like you don't feel anything.
Yeah,
but
it's not really relaxing.
If somebody else does it, it feels heavenly.
Right.
Yeah. I guess on that same note, what's in my nightstand is the eye massager thing.
The one that moves and heats.
Yeah, we love all these fun little like tech gadgets.
I want to try both of those out.
Yeah, it like massages your eyes and
it like heats up.
That
and
sounds
it's just
amazing.
like a gentle eye massage.
That sounds incredible.
It is nice.
now that I've like thought through everything that's in our night, we have like large nightstands. I actually feel like we should probably clean those out.
Yeah, mine's like a storage unit.
Now that I've like actually
so
sat.
much in there.
Mine's like a little stool that just has these two things on it, and that's it.
That's
So
what I need.
I should have picked another question.
No, that's good. I love that. Okay, let's dive in because, as Taylor said, we truly are just like so honored to have you and have been a dream guest of ours for so long because you're just like one of the best, I feel like, to do it in every like walk of space that you do. Like, you know, from speaking, just being in the wellness field, your podcast, which you're going on tour with and we'll talk about later. But what I really want to know and I would love to dive into is truly just like the origin story of the Jay Shetty that is sitting here with us today. And what for you initially sparked your love and interest in wellness?
That's a great question. I'd have to say it was my dad who was subtly trying in my teens to get me to read meaningful books.
Oh, wow.
And he was trying so hard to get me to read philosophy or theology or whatever it may have been that he was interested in. And I wasn't interested in any of it.
Right.
Because I was a teenager. Like who at 14, 15 years old is thinking about wellness? You feel amazing. You feel indestructible.
Yeah.
And then I remember that somehow through his recommendations, I ended up finding the writings of Martin Luther King, biographies of Malcolm X. And then I was also reading the biographies of David Beckham and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the same time. This is when he was in the WWE.
Oh, wow.
And I was a big wrestling fan. And it sounds ridiculous, but it wasn't. It was this deep dive into how someone lived. And I still remember this story in David Beckham's autobiography where he would spend his Friday nights every week practicing free kicks. And so he would go and put the ball down. He'd stand 25 yards away from the goal and he'd try and put it in the top corner.
Yeah. Wow.
And he said that all his friends were out drinking or partying or, you know, meeting women or whatever it was, but he was there practicing. And I think it was little things like that where I thought, oh, wow, like that's fascinating to hear that someone who's as successful as he is had so much discipline early on.
Yeah.
Or I remember him saying that he couldn't drink before game day. And so he wasn't drinking alcohol like his friends were. He was drinking orange juice or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was tiny little things like that. I remember The Rock talking about in his book about what he'd gone through in terms of depression and his relationship with his family. And I just couldn't, you know, now I think we have podcasts and we have all these conversations around people sharing their mental health stories or their morning routines or their evening routines. But at that time, it was so unique. And I would honestly say it was those real life stories of real people. And that's where I discovered that, you know, that age-old wisdom or the quote that we've all heard that there's no such thing as a strong person with an easy past. And I started to realize that all these strong, incredible, powerful people had extremely uncomfortable, difficult pasts.
Yeah.
And it was how they reacted to them, how they adapted to them that transformed their life. And I feel those seeds were planted around that time. So that's, even though that wasn't directly wellness, there was a power to that idea that these people had sacrificed, they had discipline, they had worked towards their success, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, that's such like a fascinating like thing to grab onto.
Yeah, especially at that age, like to be able to look forward and be like, you know, that, you know, I should get, you know, hold myself now if I want to be like that then. You know what's so crazy is the fact that you were fans of those two individuals back then and they, you know, sparked that within you. And I'm assuming here, I'm 99% sure on one. Have you had both of them on your podcast?
No, I haven't yet, but I got a voice note from The Rock like a couple of months back, and it was super sweet to, you know, hear from him. We've actually never met or even been in the same room with either of them.
Wow.
And I got a voice note that was like, let's figure it out. And so that was really sweet. It was a great moment. I've been a fan of him since I was like 15 years old.
That's so cool.
And to have that moment, and same with David Beckham, I'm waiting for that one.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that one. So,
David, hit him up.
but I'm very excited about it because, I was studying their life so early and have so much respect for them beyond just their success, but actually the journey that it took to get there.
Yeah. I feel like you and Dwayne would just be a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Fingers
Sweet.
crossed.
That's sweet. Okay, so then growing up, when did the idea of becoming a monk start? Because I just think that is one of
Yeah, I'm
the
excited to
coolest
dive into that 'cause I
things.
have
It's just like,
questions.
because, I don't know much about it, but
Yeah.
it's just what I do know, I'm so fascinated by.
Yeah, no. So I always think about that as I would never have wanted to become a monk if I never met a monk and spent time with one.
Yeah.
It just wasn't on the cards, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't grow up and go, I want to be a monk one day. And so neither was I thinking that. Like I thought I was going to go and carry on and study business and go get a real job and
Yeah.
work and get married and, kind of tick all the boxes. And for me, what was so profound was when I met the monks in my teens so early on, it just changed my trajectory. And so I met monks around 18, 19 years old. And one was speaking at my college, and I started spending time with him. And I look back at that moment as just being a moment where the best way to explain it is you meet someone that you look up to and you just want to be around them all the time. And I think people have felt that with actors, they've felt that with CEOs, they've felt that with athletes. Like, a kid who looks up to David Beckham and goes, oh, I just want to learn from him and be around him. It was that kind of almost childlike enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And I think what resonated to me was because the monk that I met, who I'm still very good friends with today, his name's Gauranga Das. I was just with him in January at the monastery, at the same ashram I lived at. And he just felt content. And when I look back at that time, I think when I was that age, I'd met people who were beautiful. I'd met people who were strong. I'd met people who were rich. I'd met people who were famous. But I don't think I'd met anyone who was happy. And his natural aura was confidence, happiness, security. And I just thought to myself, I don't know anyone who has that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those strange things where I don't even think it was logical. I think it was a feeling. It was an aura, an experience of being in someone's presence that was so comfortable with themselves, even though they were wearing robes. He had a shaved head. There was nothing externally attractive about him in that I was drawn to him by anything material.
Yeah.
It was purely a spiritual force that he has, that he still has till this day, that just penetrated my heart and just made me go, wow, this person has something that I think is worth pursuing. And then I found that he'd given up jobs that I would have probably chased to do that. He went to IIT, which is like the MIT of India. It's the Indian Institute of Technology, extremely reputable institution. The current CEO of Google went to that university. Like that's the level of accolade that brings. And he'd given up that future to become a monk. And so I thought either this person is crazy or they're the smartest person in the world. And I went on to find out that he was extremely thoughtful and mindful. And I give him all the credit. I don't think I would have ever even dreamt of that life. I just got really lucky that my role models at that young age became monks.
Wow.
And that's a very random thing because up until that point, my role models were athletes, CEOs, musicians, actors, whatever it may have been.
So do you say to him, I want to come with you, I want to come, practice how does that initial decision come to be?
Yeah, so when he was in London, I basically just started going to every one of his events.
Okay.
So after I met him, I said, what else are you doing this week? I'd love to come and see you speak. And I'm sure you've had similar things like this when you both have done events.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had people come up to you and be like, what else have you got coming up this week? Or how do I follow you guys? Obviously, now you just follow someone on social media and you know what they're doing.
Yeah.
At that time, that didn't exist. So I went and asked him and he said, well, I'm speaking at this home, I'm speaking at this temple, I'm speaking at this event, just join me. And so I found out his schedule. And then that week I went to every event that he did.
Wow.
And every time I went and sat with him, I felt more connected, I felt more inspired. And then eventually I actually went and spent time with him in India. This is before I actually became a monk.
Okay.
But I would spend my vacations and my holidays visiting him. So I'd go there for a couple of months. I'd go there for a couple of weeks. Anytime I had a break from school, from university, I'd go and experience the lifestyle. And I think that's what really gave me a taste because I would be interning at these corporate companies. And so I'm in bars, steakhouses, wearing suits, going to this official job as an internship. And then the rest of the time on vacations, I'm living as a monk, sleeping on the floor, wearing robes, experimenting with that lifestyle. And I'd always come back happier having spent time there.
Wow.
I'd always come back having this really profound experience that I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. And so I really, it's almost like A/B testing that everyone's doing now with thumbnails and everything else. And you're like, wait a minute, what works for you? And I was just really lucky that during those times I was at college, I had time to kind of test and experiment.
Yeah.
And it became very obvious to me that the corporate life didn't inspire me in the same way as monk life did.
Yeah.
And it was truly as simple as that. It wasn't magical. It wasn't mystical. It was, I felt attracted to a way of life because I was experiencing how amazing it could be.
Yeah. You guys know I am a simple, soft glam girly, mainly because I really have no clue how to do a full beat on my face. But I am just a very natural, run out the door, hair in a bun type of gal. But whether you're a fresh face or full glam or somewhere in between, which I feel like I am, you've probably seen Thrive Cosmetics Viral Tubing Mascara. You know, the one that's in the turquoise tube that is pretty much all over social media. Thrive Cosmetics beauty products are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, high performance and trademark formulas, and uncompromising standards. It's easy to see why their bestsellers have thousands of 5-star reviews. I have truly been amazed at this liquid lash extensions mascara. The internet does not lie. Like sometimes I'm like, are these products like actually as good as they are? But it truly lasts all day without clumping, smudging, or flaking. It has easy removal, but also what I really like about this mascara is it has nourishing ingredients to support longer, stronger, and healthier looking lashes over time, which is something that we all can use a little bit of. Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/squeeze. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/thesqueeze for 20% off your first order. So something I'm striving for in the new year is just to take better care of myself. On the outside and on the inside, what food, what supplements, what exactly I'm putting in my body. And I really discovered that I needed more protein in my diet, but I wasn't exactly sure how to fit that in with something that I actually enjoyed eating. And that's where Premier Protein comes in. They're high protein, 1 gram of sugar, and available in ready to drink protein shakes and great tasting powders. I feel like Premier Protein is truly just like one of the most legendary brands. I've seen this brand for years. And it's been really nice to kind of incorporate them back into my diet. I love the ready to drink protein shakes because you just leave them in the fridge. They're nice and cold. And with how busy I am, you know, from running out the door, I can grab one, drink it in the car, or I'll have it in between my Zoom meetings. It's just like very practical to fit into a busy lifestyle. And that is something that I definitely need in my life, is something that just fits in with ease. And they have quite the flavor list. There is truly so many different flavors. Some of my favorites are the vanilla, the chocolate. Obviously, those two are just staples. Some fun ones that I enjoy are the cookie dough, the peaches and cream, which is like kind of really random that it's in a protein shake, but I actually really like it. And the cookies and cream are truly just the best. If you're looking to put more protein into your diet, visit premierprotein.com and go to where to buy to find a retailer near you, or find where to buy online. Today's episode is brought to you by Ollie. Clean, fresh nutrition for your dog in 5 flavors they'll absolutely flip over. You don't need to have a veterinarian nutritionist to know that feeding your dog real, whole foods with minimal processing is one of the best choices you can make for their health. Our dogs are obsessed with Ollie, you guys. Like, I actually can't tell you how much they love this food, especially Lily, because she is such a picky eater. Like, she literally sometimes just like wouldn't eat her kibble, and she just would go like a day without eating. And now with Ollie, she actually like looks forward to eating good food. And Ollie is amazing because it's made with absolutely no harmful fillers or preservatives. And it's made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world. Some of the girls' favorite flavors are the fresh beef with sweet potato, the fresh turkey with blueberries, and the lamb with cranberries. It's really simple. You just take a 30-second quiz and they'll create a customized meal plan based on your dog's weight, activity level, and other health information. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/squeeze. Tell them all about your dog and use code SQUEEZE to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they could offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/squeeze and enter code SQUEEZE to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. When you told your parents that you were going to go and practice being a monk, what was their reaction?
Yeah, so I think they didn't believe it because I started to say it to them while I was at college.
Okay.
Because I was going on these trips. I'd be like, guys, I'm going to become a monk when I graduate. And they were like, whatever, like that's not going to happen. So I think they kind of thought I was just saying it to say it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you're telling your parents your dreams and they're like, yeah, you'll get a real job someday. Like, don't worry about it. And then when I actually told them in my final year of college and especially in the last 6 months, and I was like, guys, I'm definitely doing this when I graduate. Like, this is the plan. I think my mom was just extremely worried about my health. Like my mom was like, what are you going to eat? And how are you going to take care of yourself? And, you know, all the things that a mom would care about. Like my mom's a mom. She doesn't care about anything apart from me being healthy.
Yeah.
And my dad was always slightly aloof with my upbringing. Like he wasn't really the most present dad. Mm-hmm. He wasn't someone that I was really that close to in a way of listening to him. I've always said my dad's more like my friend than he is my dad. Mm-hmm. He wasn't someone I followed or listened to. He was someone that I shared things with, but wasn't someone that had a say in my life. And I feel like I started to like follow my inner voice when I was around 14. So subjects I wanted to study at school, the kind of places I wanted to hang out, people that I wanted to be around. So when I was at that age, I was so independent that I don't even think my parents' opinions mattered to me. But my extended family had very strong opinions. So my extended family, aunts and uncles, grandparents were like, you're wasting your life. Yeah. This is the worst decision you're ever going to make. You're letting your parents down. Yeah. You know, your parents have worked so hard to make sure you had a great education. What now? And so there was this almost societal pressure that was there at the same time as my excitement was mirrored with this weight of, you're letting your parents down. Right. Your parents are not wealthy. How are they going to take care of themselves? What are they going to do? You have a younger sister who's not going to have your support as an older brother. So there was this kind of conflicted feeling that I had of like, this is what I think I need to do with my life. Yeah. And at the same time, there are a lot of people that seem to be upset with me.
Yeah. Did that ever cast doubt in you if that was the right decision?
I knew it was the right path for me, but I hated that the right path for me was going to hurt someone else. Right. And I think this is a really interesting learning point for all of us, that sometimes the right path for you is going to upset people you love. Yeah. And sometimes the best decision for you is going to push people away. And sometimes the thing that you feel called to do, not everyone's going to agree with it. Yeah. And what you've got to do is follow your heart and try to bring those people along with you to the best of your ability. I think if you throw away the path that feels true to you or sacrifice it in order to make people happy, I think you might fail. Right. But I think you might be surprised that when you follow your heart and follow your path and try to bring people along with you, they might appreciate it. Yeah. And I think sometimes we get lost because we think, well, if you don't agree with me, then I don't want you in my life. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that person's bitter because they don't like you or don't believe in you. They probably don't believe in themselves. They probably had a dream that they sacrificed. They probably had something that they were taken away from because of pressure. And so I think the more compassionate we can be, that the people around us, they're not supporting us because they don't think what we want is valuable. They're not supporting us because no one supports them. Yeah. And I've definitely seen that with the people that didn't support me at the time. most of them are still in my life, if not all.
Right.
Yeah. So when you decide you're going to go, is the intention when you go to do it for the rest of your life? Like, is that what most monks do? Or is it like something that you practice for a shorter amount of time?
So I definitely made the decision that I was going to do it for the rest of my life. Like I felt that. I went in there really clear that this was what I was wanting to do and that this was my path.
Okay.
And I almost looked at it how you'd look at a marriage, in that I think when someone gets married, their intention is, we're going to do this forever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at that time, at least in my naivety, my enthusiasm, my genuine calling at the time, I was like, this is it. This is life. This is what it's going to be.
Yeah. So then when did you get to the point when you decided you wanted to leave that and come back to normal society?
The real
Yeah.
world, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the reason why I describe it like a marriage is because it felt like a divorce. Like breaking up with being a monk is what it felt like.
Wow.
Because it felt like my whole college life. Imagine you fell in love with someone at college and you were waiting to get married to them. And that's kind of how it felt to me. It was like my whole time I was at college, even though I was dating and I was, you know, doing everything a normal college student does, in the back of my head, I was like, I really want to become a monk. I have to figure out a way. And then you finally get there and you're like, yes, I graduated. I chose to become a monk. I did it. I'm here. We got married. We're in love. This is going to last forever. And then 3 years in, you're like, I think this isn't going to work. And it's interesting because a divorce is a conversation between two people, but this type of divorce is in your own head and it's with yourself, which sounds like it should be easier, and it probably is, than breaking up with someone else because it's only your feelings. But it felt like there were these two choices, because what it was for me deeply was I felt a calling to share what I'd learned. And it's not that the monkhood discouraged that. They encouraged that. They would encourage me to come back to London and give talks. We'd go to Europe and teach meditation on the streets. Like, we had some really incredible experiences. But I think it was a really fascinating realization that you've done something for 3 years. It's meant to make you more self-aware. But the result of my self-awareness is I'm not a monk. And that's a really interesting kind of thing. Like, the whole point of all these practices are I'm meant to get to know myself better.
Yeah.
But getting to know myself made me realize this path is wrong for me.
Yeah.
And that's a really harsh realization.
Wow.
And I remember it probably took me 6 months to even admit that I was thinking about it, because I felt so guilty. I felt the pressure again of what people would say.
Yeah.
I was scared about all those people who wrote me off before I joined.
Don't do it. You
Exactly.
go do it. Now here you are coming back with your tail between your legs.
Literally, like I was like, they're going to be right. They all told me I'd never get a job. They all told me that I was wasting my life. I was now like, oh gosh, now I'm 3 years behind in the career market. If I come back, do I even want a real job? Like, what does that look like? I'm not sure that I'll fit in. Like, what will I do? I really love this lifestyle. And so I came back with a lot of, I didn't even admit it at the time, but I definitely was depressed. And I didn't even accept saying the word because I was so scared that I would go so deep into it that I wouldn't know if I could pull myself out.
Yeah.
And so that's why I left. And that's why I felt such a, heavy feeling when I left, because I felt like I'd let myself down. I felt like I'd let my teachers down. And I felt like I'd let my friends and family and community down who kind of predicted it anyway.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it. So I felt like the fool. And so there was shame, guilt, embarrassment, humiliation, everything. And it sounds ridiculous now because it was only to like my tiny community that, but everything's proportional.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's so relatable, even though like on the surface, like relating being a monk and leaving that to other society wouldn't on the surface seem like it could match. But I feel like that is so relatable to any like relationship, moving to another state, getting a new job, like all of that
Going
is
down
so
any
relatable.
path that you think is the right decision and realizing that it wasn't, and you take the good from it, but it almost feels like starting over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why the divorce, I think, is the best way to look at it. Like,
Yeah.
I think when people are reflecting on, do we get divorced, do we stay together?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all the same things. They're like, what are our families going to say? If you've got kids, you want to, what are the kids going to do? Like, all the same thoughts. And
Yeah.
it really is that. There's no, it's just that I was doing something that was very random and different.
Yeah.
Right.
But the feelings and emotions of us as humans when you quote unquote fail at something,
Yeah.
not saying that divorce is a failure or that what I left being was a failure, but I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
And I think we have the same emotions, whether you fail at a marriage or fail at being a monk.
Yeah. Precisely.
How was transitioning back from 3 years of, living that life to being back in London and just like thrown back into this different world?
The first month, if I'm honest, I went back to all my old bad habits.
Okay.
And so that means, and they weren't that bad, but it was like I was not waking up early. I was like sleeping the whole time. Partly it was because my health had taken a hit as well. I was quite physically drained. I'd been in hospital just before I left because the taxing impact of the monk life physically really took its toll on me as well.
Oh, wow.
The sleeping on the floor, the communal living. If someone's sick next to you, you're getting sick. If someone's waking up at 2 a.m., you're waking up earlier just because they've woken up. There isn't that, you're sleeping in a room with potentially anything from 20 to 100 people, depending on which monastery you're at while you're moving around. Wow. And so the style of life for me, my body was like, I need my own bed.
Yeah.
I need my own bed sheets. I need my own, I need some, I need to control the temperature in this room, like simple things like that you're used to growing up in London.
Yeah.
And so all of that kind of put me in quite a bad place physically. So when I got back, I was sleeping all day pretty much. I caught up on every episode of How I Met Your Mother and every TV.
Yes.
I love that show.
Yes,
It's such a
me
great
too.
show. That was like the first show
Yes.
that I watched when I came back.
so
I
good.
was watching every movie that I'd missed. I think I'd missed a World Cup, so I caught up on all the soccer that I'd missed.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm a big football fan. And then I caught up on, I was just like, I started eating chocolate again, and I was like addicted because I hadn't had sugar for a while. I was listening to Drake again, which was amazing. And so it was like this first month was just like this complete, like, as if it never happened.
Right.
And I think that was almost like withdrawal symptoms in a sense of like this feeling of like, oh gosh, I failed. Now what? Who cares? Forget about it all. And I remember one night where I was washing up dishes at night after eating dinner. And I'd moved back in with my parents at this point. So I was living with my parents because I didn't have any money and I didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm living back at home and I was just washing dishes. And I remember like looking at my reflection in the window that's at, near my parents' kitchen. And I was just looking at myself and I was thinking, what would I be doing if it was 7 p.m. in the monastery? Like that's the thought that came to my mind. And I remembered I would have been in a collective prayer or a collective meditation before going to sleep, or I would have been giving a talk at a university or a school or something to inspire young people. And I was just thinking, I was like, that was real. Like, that's what I was meant to do. Like, that was what I wanted to dedicate my life to. And I now have a choice to make that I either give up my dream or I find a way to still make it real, even though I'm not living there.
Yeah.
And it was that thought that changed everything, where, I started to get ready as if I was getting ready for work. I'd go to my local library. I'd sit there and apply for jobs. I'd read the Vedic literatures that I'd been studying, and I'd read personal growth and self-development books. And I spent probably around 10 months doing that before I finally got a job after being rejected from 40 companies before an interview.
Oh my gosh.
Because no one would give me a job. And, surprise, surprise, no one wants to hire a former monk.
Right.
Like, everyone's like, what are your
What have you been doing the last
transferable
3
skills?
years?
Yeah.
Like,
What's your resume?
yeah, being silent and sitting still. It's like, we don't need that in the company. And so it was like a really, those 10 months were really tough.
Yeah.
And it took even my first day back. So when I finally got a job, they had almost like what do you call it? Like a pre-drinks before you start the job kind of thing. Like, I don't know what it's called now. Like orientation, induction kind of vibe, but it's like social.
Yeah.
And it was like pizza making and wine tasting.
Oh, wow.
Now I didn't drink alcohol ever since I became a monk, and I've never drank alcohol again. And so I was like, God, I'm not going to drink the wine. And, pizza making, all right, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And I was so stressed. I remember getting the train in to this event, and I was so stressed because I was like, I haven't done small talk. I don't know how I'm going to connect with anyone. how do I explain what I've been doing for the past 3 years?
Right.
Like, and everyone's younger than me because I've got onto the grad program. So most people are like 21 and I'm born in September. So I'm like 25, 26 going in. And so I'm like, I'm so much older than everyone as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, this is going to be strange. And so I remember at that pizza making and wine tasting, I just found like one person that I went and had like a meaningful conversation with, because I was so scared to talk to anyone else because I didn't know what to say.
What did you say? What was your first job back?
My first job back was working at Accenture, which is this big management consulting firm.
Okay.
And that's kind of the track I probably would have taken, that or investment banking, if I would have gone straight, if I hadn't become a monk. But I wouldn't have been rejected by 40 companies. And so to get that job was such a slog, because 40 companies were just like, we don't want you. Even, I didn't forget we don't want you. I just never heard back because there was no interview. So it was rough and tough. And so I was so grateful to get that job, because I was like, at least I can pay my own bills and not be reliant on my family at this age, and, you know, not be living in my loft bedroom that I grew up in. You know?
So from there, how do you transition from corporate almost back into wellness space?
Yeah, it was really interesting, because what I realized was that being a monk was like being at school, and everything that came after it was like taking the exam. And what I mean by that is I learned all these incredible philosophies, tools, practices while living as a monk. But it's only when I left did I realize how valuable they were. Yeah. Because you got to test them in the real world. Right. Yeah. Right. It's like you've learned these in this not perfect place, but you've learned it in this safe space where everyone around you's following these principles, and everyone's meditating, and everyone's doing all of it. And then all of a sudden you're in the real world. And now it's like, all right, well, do I follow what the real world says works, or do I follow what the monk said? Yeah. And I was really fortunate that at that time I went, I'm going to follow what the monk said. I'm going to see whether what I learned was true. And so there was this beautiful verse that I remember that I studied, and it says, when you protect your purpose protects you. And I never heard it that way, because if you think about our language, it's all about finding purpose. It's all about looking for purpose. But the Vedas say that you already have purpose and you have to protect it. And so I knew that my natural purpose was, I loved teaching, I loved sharing, I loved giving principles, I loved making tools really accessible. And so when I joined Accenture, I was like, I need to find a way to do that here. Yeah. And my interesting fact about myself at work was that I used to be a monk and I teach meditation.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. And so, because you had to write it down on the first day, like everyone had their interesting fact, and someone was like, I bumped into the royal family, or like I swim for the country, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And mine is, I used to be a monk and I know how to meditate, and I can teach meditation. And what happened was I got really lucky. And this is the beauty of timing, the universe, things that you can't control. Accenture at the time was really focused on mental health. And this is 2013, so it's early days. But Accenture is a very forward-thinking company. It really values employee well-being, and they were making it a priority in 2013. Wow. And so my managing director at the time heard about me and my interest in meditation and my background, and she said, I want you to, at the next company offsite, teach meditation to your peers and talk about what you're doing in the workplace. Wow. So, by the way, I have no brand. No one knows who I am. Right. No one has a clue. And I'm putting on stage at Twickenham Rugby Stadium, which is like it's where the England team play rugby. And so it's at, imagine a sports stadium, but in a private conference center. And I'm on stage in front of 1,000 of my peers who don't have a clue who I am. Yeah. And they're like, hey, this is Jay Shetty, he's one of your peers and he's going to teach you how to meditate. And I'm sitting up there and I'm in between like our company CEO and Will Greenwood, who won the Rugby World Cup with England. Okay. And I'm in the middle of them. And so I have no clout on this stage whatsoever. I have no place to be there. Right. And I practiced my breath work before I went onto stage that I'd learned during my time in the monastery. And I went and taught meditation just from the best intention I could find. I was like, I really believe this will help people. We have a stressful, fast-paced workplace. Let me try. And it was amazing the response I got. My managing director came up to me afterwards and she said, I've never heard a group of your peers be that quiet ever and be that present. And then everyone inside the company started inviting me to teach meditation to small groups. So on top of my
wow.
day job, I would travel around the company. So I was still a consultant by day.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I would travel around and teach meditation. And so the first time I did it, 2 people showed up.
Yeah.
And then the second time I did it, 5 people showed up. And then the third time I did it, maybe 10 people showed up. And so I would literally I was just teaching meditation to my colleagues for free. It was like meditation Mondays. I'd do mental health weekly check-ins. And the company just really encouraged it. And so even though it wasn't my job and it wasn't my role title, it became a part of my life and I loved it.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so that's how
cool.
wellness came back into my life. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's why if I'm talking to anyone today anyone who's listening today and they're like, Jay, I hate my job.
Yeah.
You know, they're listening to us right now and they're like, I hate my job, or my job isn't my purpose, or my job isn't my passion. Find a way to bring your passion into work. It's going to feel really risky to quit your job, try and build something. And I'm not saying you can't do that one day. Maybe you will. But find a way to bring that passion into your workplace. Find a way to bring your skill, your talents, whatever it is, into your workplace, because it will build your confidence.
Yeah.
It will help you learn. It will help you build amazing relationships. And I have so many good memories of traveling around teaching meditation to 2 colleagues. And it was great. Yeah, it was awesome.
I love those like photos that you post of, you know, when you started doing it, and there's like 5 people listening to, you know, on the stage with thousands now. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, and it was so meaningful then. Like I never sat there and went, I really hope this is 500 people one day. There was a joy in just the fact that, especially at that time, like I'm talking about 2013, 2014, 2015, I was just happy anyone cared about this.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait for more people. It was just like, I can't believe 5 people care about mental health.
Right.
Because it wasn't in the zeitgeist. It wasn't the conversation. So I was so grateful. And I remember there was one guy who is known as like, he was the rugby lad. And so he's like the alpha male, type A, you know, he was the guy that all the girls wanted to be with and all the rest of it. And kind of like your old characters that you played, you know, and today too, of course.
I'll take it.
But, you know, that kind of like the stud. And he came up to me one day and he was just like, Jay, look, I know you teach this meditation stuff. He's like, I really want to learn, but I can't let the girls see that I'm learning.
Right.
Yeah.
So will you teach me privately?
Hilarious.
And so he told me this at like some evening networking event. And I was like, sure, tell me when. He goes, can we do it now? I think he might have been a little drunk. Anyway, so I was like, all right, sure. Like I was like, whenever. I would take up any opportunity to teach someone meditation because it wasn't common. So I'm like, all right, let's go. So we went and found a room at like, you know, wherever in the office we were. We found this private room and I was like, all right, well, let's sit in here and meditate. And, you know, it wasn't one of those rooms where you could dim the lights. It was either lights on or lights off. And he didn't want anyone to know he was doing it. So we turned the lights off and it's me and him in a room. Next thing you know, we're closed eyes. You know, he's sitting opposite me like you are. And we've got our hands on our lap. We're meditating on breath work. All the girls run in, turn the lights on, and see these 2 guys sitting opposite each other going, what are you doing?
In the dark.
And then all of a sudden his cover was blown. In the dark, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I've just got so many good memories of that time of just, you know, things that wouldn't be weird now or wouldn't happen now. And, yeah. So I have good memories.
That's so good.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
That's so good. What was the first thing? I'm assuming you left that and then decided to pursue this wellness space. What was that?
So I think that all these experiences I just shared with you gave me so much confidence that this was needed.
Yeah.
And that there were people that were valuing this. There were people in my team or my colleagues that would come up to me and say, this really helped me with my burnout this week, or I'm going through a really tough time in my marriage and this was the only break I got, or whatever it was. I was hearing these things. Yeah. And then I thought to myself, I was like, there were 2 questions I asked myself. The first was, what would my younger self be really unhappy that I've given up? When I was young, I really enjoyed spoken word. I loved poetry. I loved writing. I always enjoyed that, and I'd stopped doing it. And then I asked myself, what would I regret on my deathbed if I didn't pursue? So if I fast forward to 90 or 100 years old, hopefully, and I was on my deathbed, what would I look back on and think, you should have done that. You should have tried that. Yeah. Because I'd read that people always regret what they didn't do, not what they did do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to really regret it if I don't try and share this message with more people.
Yeah.
And when I say more people, I mean, like 50, maybe 100. And so I was happy to go around companies. My friends were inviting me to their companies now. So I was going beyond my organization. And then me and my friend were messaging. My friend's a videographer in London and he videos weddings. And he'd messaged me and said, Jay, you always give so many good talks and everything. He goes, we should record them into videos.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I'm not sure. And he's like, no, let's just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So I scribbled down some scripts. In 3 days we went out. It was the end of 2015, or we were always trying to figure out whether it was December 2015 or the 1st of Jan 2016. Can't remember.
Okay.
And we recorded 4 videos.
Wow.
And these videos were me in London thinking out loud, reflecting, philosophizing on themes that I cared about. And we recorded those 4 videos. And then 2016, I put out my first video and it got like 100 views and I was over the moon and it was amazing. I was like, wow, 100 people. And then, you know, that video maybe got to like 5,000 views. And I was like, this is incredible. Yeah. And then I put out the next one. And then in a month, I had 1,000 YouTube subscribers. And I was so happy. I was like, this is insane. Like I've been speaking to groups of 5 to 10 people. And I remember my friend saying to me, like, this is the peak, right? Like, this is it. Like, well done. Like, it's not going to get much better than this. Like, enjoy it while it lasts.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, let's see how it goes. And so it was really just my friends by chance mentioning it to me kind of going out there and recording videos that were based on talks and meditations that I'd given, and then kind of putting it out there into the universe.
Yeah.
And Ariana Huffington saw them around 3-4 months in, and they didn't have loads of views then. They maybe had like 10,000 views or something like that. And Ariana Huffington saw them because my old boss from Accenture, she showed them to Ariana Huffington at Davos. And Ariana Huffington saw them. And then that was when the HuffPost started sharing them on their page. So there was no money. I didn't have a page. They were like, we'll share your videos.
Yeah.
And so they started sharing them. And the first video got 1 million views in 7 days, which for them was basic. They were like, we do that all the time.
Right.
So they weren't that impressed. And then the second, I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And then the second video got 1 million views in 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then the third video got 1 million views in 12 hours. And then the fourth video got 1 million views in 6 hours. And those 4 videos did like 250 million views or something crazy.
Wow.
And that was just, you know, that was the first tipping point in 2016 that led from me kind of doing this for 2 to 10 people to then having an opportunity to do it for more.
Holy crap.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No,
I was trying to give you all the detail.
Oh, no, that was great. No, I just love learning like what, like we just had Mel on recently.
Yeah,
we were like
love
talking with her, like how she got into it. And I just love learning how people who have fully just like immersed themselves into this career and are so good at it, like what like before that looked like.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah, agree.
I'm going to tell you guys a little statistic here, which is a little scary, but hold on because there's a solution. But there are over 10,000 chemicals that have entered our U.S. food supply, yet the EU limits this to just 300 additives. Let that sink in. I personally don't have time to sift through these ingredient labels to see what's in my food, which is why I love using Thrive Market. Thrive Market makes it so easy to find better options without the hassle. One of my favorite features is the Healthy Swap scanner in the Thrive Market app. It's super simple. You can scan any item and it instantly suggests cleaner, healthier grocery alternatives. For me, that means swapping out sugary snacks with high quality swaps like Chomps beef sticks, Yum, Simple Mills crackers, and lesser evil popcorn. And the best part, everything gets delivered right to my door and I get savings on every order. Thrive Market also takes the guesswork out of finding safe, healthy food. All their products are 100% non-GMO and free of over 1,000 harmful ingredients, and their on-site filters make it so easy to shop. Ready for a junk-free start to 2025? Head to thrivemarket.com/squeeze and get 30% off your first order, plus free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/squeeze. thrivemarket.com/squeeze. You guys are truly going to love Thrive Market. It has been so helpful for my everyday life, and they truly have such amazing products. You guys have heard me say this. One of my goals for the new year is prioritizing self-care. And what I mean by that is honestly my body and what I'm doing with it on the outside, but also the inside, what food I'm eating, what supplements I'm taking, and really just giving my body the best form of those things it possibly can. And that's why I rely on companies like Symbiotica, because the quality of their products is truly just unmatched. They're free from seed oils, preservatives, toxins, or artificial additives, which are usually found in supplements. So you know you're only getting the good stuff that your body craves. Symbiotica is one of those companies for me that I know and I can fully trust that everything that they have on their website and that they sell is truly good for me. So many of these supplement companies just add in fillers and these things that aren't good for us, but Symbiotica truly cares about what we're putting in our body. And it's one of those companies, honestly, a very few companies that I fully put my trust in, that anything they make, I will love. Their favorite product that I've been loving right now is the liposomal vitamin C packs. They taste amazing, but also what I love is they're convenient. They're little liquid pouches that are perfect for being on the go. If you're traveling, I just keep mine by my coffee machine and I drink it while my coffee's brewing. But I love it because it helps improve my skin by supporting collagen production, and it also improves my immune health. High quality holistic wellness is right at your fingertips. Be present and feel your best for life's most memorable moments. Go to symbiotica.com/squeeze for 20% off your order plus free shipping today. That is symbiotica.com/squeeze for 20% off your order plus free shipping today. Imagine constantly having thoughts so disturbing and out of character that they paralyze you with fear and anxiety. And your entire existence feels like it's about trying to make them go away. What if I told you that this experience I'm describing is about OCD, and the stereotypes about being so, quote, OCD are nothing like the real thing? It's time to break the silence around this misunderstood condition because it's nothing too trivial to joke about. OCD causes people to get stuck in a cycle of stressful, unwanted thoughts called intrusive thoughts and repetitive behaviors that they do in an attempt to make the fear, doubt, or anxiety from those intrusive thoughts go away, even though the relief never lasts. What makes OCD so painful is that intrusive thoughts often focus on the things we care about most, like our relationships, our loved ones, our beliefs, and it's incredibly debilitating. But the good news is that it's highly treatable with the right kind of therapy. That's where NoCD comes into play. With NoCD, you can do virtual therapy with a licensed therapist who specializes in treating OCD. They really understand, so you can feel safe opening up to them about what you're going through, and they know how to help you take your life back. NoCD therapists are trained in a type of therapy called ERP, or exposure and response prevention. It's the most effective treatment for OCD, and NoCD makes it affordable with insurance coverage for over 155 million Americans. They also provide support between therapy sessions so you never feel alone. If you think you might be struggling with OCD and want to learn more about therapy with NoCD, go to nocd.com and schedule a free 15-minute call with their team. That's nocd.com to learn more and book your free 15-minute call. Should we jump into mindfulness?
Oh, sure. Love the...
You guys are so easy to talk to, so I'm sorry if my answers have been too long.
No.
I'll cut them down if I've got talking for too long. Tell me.
We could sit here forever. No. But no, diving into the topic of mindfulness. I'm curious, just coming from the king of mindfulness himself, in layman's terms, what would you say mindfulness means to you?
Mindfulness to me means being able to be present with what you want, when you want, and how you want.
Okay.
And so mindfulness is just the ability and the act of bringing your presence to something that you choose to be present with.
Okay.
And most people find that very difficult because even if we want to be present, we're absent.
Yeah.
And even if we want to be there, we can be lost in a million thoughts.
Yeah.
And so mindfulness is, to me, is the ability and the act to be able to point your attention in the direction that you want it to be in.
Okay.
Does that help? Does that feel simple enough?
Yeah, presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I hear the word mindfulness and it's like such a commonly used word in this space. And sometimes I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
What?
Like, what exactly does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you, I guess this is a good question for you. How do you then like specifically approach implementing mindfulness into your daily life.
Yeah. And if you want to go a step deeper in the definition, it's doing everything with intention. So everything is done with, I'll give an example. And by the way, definitely not the king of mindfulness. I was talking to my team member yesterday, and I said something, and it was just unmindful because it wasn't intentional. And then I messaged her afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry I said that to you. Like, I was just so not mindful in that moment, and I felt terrible." And I said, "I hope it didn't affect you in that way." And she was so sweet about it. But I make mistakes all the time, and I think mindfulness is being intentional. Like, I know why, and I know how, and I know where I am, and I'm thinking about being here. For example, like, I've come on this show with you guys today. If I'm mindful, it's like I know who I'm going to meet. I've been present, and I've watched your guys' show. I enjoy your interviews. I love your style. Like, I have a sense of what this room even looked like before I'm here. On the way here, I was thinking about the kind of things we'll probably share and talk about. And so I've come primed, prepared, thoughtful about it. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm prepared. I don't mean prepared in terms of rehearsed. I mean prepared in terms of I have prepared my mind and energy to be present. Yeah. Whereas most of us, sadly, don't get that opportunity, and we run from thing to thing. And so most people take their last meeting's baggage into their next meeting. Yeah. So the first 15 minutes of the next meeting, you're actually thinking about the last meeting. Yeah. So you've missed the context of this one. And then you take that absence into the other. And so when I think about it, it's like when we're at work, we're thinking about vacation. And when we're at vacation, we're thinking about work. Yeah. And it's because you can't be absent at work and present on vacation. And you can't be present on vacation and then not present at work. Your presence or absence is going to bleed into every area of your life. Yeah. And that's why people who are disconnected at work, you can't then come home and suddenly be present with your family because you've trained your brain and your mind to not be where you are. So mindfulness in the basic way, the Zen saying would be to be where your feet are. To truly be where your feet are, to truly be right here, right now, and nowhere else.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
I need to work on that.
I was going to
say
the
do
same.
I
was going to say the same. It's like, we need to be better at that.
No, it's such a good reminder. And I guess that's why it's so commonly used in this space, is being where your feet are and truly being present.
Yeah, so much easier said than done.
So much easier said than done. And it's practice, right? Going to your question, like, it comes by trying to do it in the most basic of ways. Yeah. Next time you walk into a space, my favorite technique, this is by far my favorite mindfulness technique that I share all the time. It's super simple. Anyone can do it. It's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And the technique is whenever you walk into a space, first look at 5 things. So we can look around this room, we can look at the colors, we can look at the shapes, we can look at the shades. Just take it in and observe 5 things more deeply than you would. So I can see the yellow lemons, I can see the green leaves, I can look at both of your eyes, I can see what you're wearing. So I can be present through the sense of seeing. Now, what are the 4 things I can touch? So this chair, when I came in, the texture, the temperature, the smooth or harshness, whatever it may be. You made me pick one of the questions. Like, I can feel the paper. I picked up the glass to sip some water. Let me be present through touch. 3 things that I can hear. The first thing I noticed when I walked in here is how peaceful it was. Like, your whole home has such a peaceful energy. It was so calming. And even this room, I was like, wow, there's so much stillness here, which I really love. And then, of course, I can hear your voices. Maybe there's a little bit of white noise, tiny bit that I can hear. And then there's 2 things I can smell. And then finally, 1 thing I can taste. So if you're ever worried that you're not where your feet are, simply focus on the 5 things you can see, the 4 things you can touch, the 3 things you can hear, the 2 things you can smell, and the 1 thing you can taste, and you will be right where your feet are. And so that's the simplest, most easiest mindfulness technique that I've loved learning for years. And I even do it when I'm in a really special place, kind of like an Instagram picture spot. And this is the picture I try and take. And the last time I was teaching this technique, I was teaching it to a group of friends in Bhutan last year. And we were in this old Bhutanese castle fort. And it was candlelit. and we couldn't really see that much apart from certain colors. And if I close my eyes today, I can be right back there because I practiced this. And so it's not just a technique of being present. It's the technique of taking a mental picture that will never leave you.
Yeah.
And so if you ever are having the most beautiful date or time with your family or your friends, do this together and you will never, ever forget the imprint of that special moment that will last for you in your heart and your mind forever. So anyway, it's one of my favorites.
I like that a lot because I think to myself all the time, like how many, like people ask me, and we ask a lot of people on this podcast as well, but when people ask me if you could go back in time and do anything differently, what would that be? And my answer always is, I wish I could go back in time and just like be in the spaces I was in and like the memories I have and just like relive them, or wish that in that moment I just enjoyed them more, because I sit here today going, wow, I've done some like really amazing things in life and I don't remember much of it. I almost look at that person and those memories and it feels like somebody else, because just life was such a whirlwind. And I think I was just always so focused on, you know, what's to come instead of being like, wow, I'm presenting at the Oscars right now. I'm having lunch with Tom Cruise, like the craziest of crazy things. And, you know, it's just, I definitely was not present. I was appreciative, but I wish that moving forward, I want to do that, you know, whenever, like, for example, this moment right here, 10 years from now, I want to be able to remember this moment, having this conversation with you, like, very well. And that's definitely something that I want to start implementing into my life. So I don't, you know, do the same thing that I've been doing, which is like thinking about the past and being like, it just seems so blurry, and I don't really remember things very well.
Yeah.
That's so good.
They say it's one of the reasons why we feel life is moving faster as we get older is because we have less present, absorbed new experiences. So when you're young, everything is just so amazing. Right? The first time you went to Disney World, the first time you went to your favorite restaurant growing up, the first time you could remember a birthday, there was a newness, a novelty, you were present, you remember so much. And then as we get older, it's not that time moves faster, it feels like it does because we have less novel, profound, absorbed experiences. And I felt that. I mean, I think all of us who lived through the pandemic, it feels like the last 5 years have just gone like that. And it's because everything just seems the same, feels the same. But when everything feels the same, that's when you have to look for the new. And I remember one of the mindfulness practices that I learned in the monastery that I loved is often we were asked to walk down this path. And we would walk down this path every day during this exercise. And every day you were asked to find something new to focus on. So it was the same old path, but you had to discover something new. It could be the shape of a stone. It could be the color of a flower. It could be the shape of a leaf. It could be a new plant. It could be a new animal, whatever it was that you found. And it was really interesting to me because the mind would try and game the system. So my mind would be like, oh, I'm going to find 2 new things today. So tomorrow I don't have to look for something new. And I'll just come back here. And then my monk teacher would change it the next day and go, well, today I want you to not worry about anything. And then you'd be like, oh gosh. So it was this practice of how can you do the same old thing and find something new? I think that's the key to great marriage. I think that's the key to great life. I think that's the key to loving your home, because anything you can become familiar with and lose its value.
You start to take it for granted.
Exactly. So, and by the way, you being so honest and vulnerable about you feeling that way about amazing experiences you've had, we've all done it. I still do it. We're all a work in progress. And these techniques are some techniques that I think have really stayed with me and I still try and practice today.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. Okay. This is something that I maybe want your advice on, but I feel myself sometimes now like being in this mental health wellness space. I don't know if it's imposter syndrome creeping in, if it like what it is, But I feel myself sometimes holding myself to like a really high standard of making sure practicing mindfulness, making sure I'm going to therapy, I'm doing all the self-care things, and that I really am like practicing what I'm preaching. And I kind of get discouraged because I hold myself to such a high standard that truly like isn't realistic. And I'm just curious if that is something you've ever dealt with, and just to like kind of how to like combat those thoughts of I'm not doing enough. Like I have this platform, I have this podcast, we have our lemon drops listening. Like I feel like I'm not doing enough like to actually be sitting here doing this.
Yeah, not like feeling worthy to be, preaching the stuff that we talk about on a daily basis when we know that, deep inside we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having that feeling of like, am I worthy of, having a mental health podcast and, giving advice or having these open conversations with people when, we don't always do things the right way.
Yeah.
That makes you the perfect person. Like that thought, that feeling makes you the perfect people to do the show. Because the other two choices are you think you're so perfect that you're qualified to teach, or the other option is you think you're so unqualified that you never do anything. And I think the reality is that none of us are perfect. We're all works in progress. None of us are completely mindful all of the time. We all make mistakes. None of us are superhuman. No one is, truly. There is no one that I've met that would claim to be. And what's really interesting about what you said is that I think it shows humility. And when I was with the monks, humility was seen as the most aspirational quality that a human could ever aspire for. That if you were aspiring for humility, you won at life. And there's this beautiful story of Benjamin Franklin, because he had his 13 precepts. So he had a book that he carried around with 13 things he journaled about and wanted to aspire to have in his life. They were qualities, integrity, and different things like that. And when he was dying, the story goes that they asked him which one he felt he didn't conquer. And he said it was the 13th one. And they said, what was that? And he said, humility. Because obviously you can never conquer humility, because if you think you conquered it, then you're not that humble, you have a massive ego. But with what you said, to me, that I love that your lemon drops have you to listen to. Like that's what makes you both the perfect hosts, because you're not coming at this from a point of view of we know and you don't. You're not coming at this from a point of view of we figured it all out and we're going to teach you everything. You're coming at it from a point of view of, hey, we're struggling with this and we're figuring it out and I'm trying to share it. And by the way, that's what I'm trying to do too. Like the reason why I call life the exam and the test is because I'm testing these ideas and I'm teaching what I'm testing and experimenting with. And I found these ideas to be hugely valuable as I've tested them, and I'm sharing them. And I would hope that you, me, Taylor, like all of us, that we hold on to that feeling forever. I hope it never leaves you. Because if it ever leaves you, to me, that's when we'll actually make the mistake. And so I think that thought is actually the most beautiful thought, because it keeps you humble, it keeps you grounded, and it keeps you yearning and wanting to grow and believing. And all you have to do to that thought is add one thought, and that's grace and kindness. One thing I found in the top performers, the most enlightened people, spiritual people, the most successful people, is this balance between having high standards and then having high grace. And those two things together are an unbeatable combination, because you hold yourself to a really high standard, but you have high grace because you realize that you'll only stay with that standard if you have grace on your mistake. And a good example of this in a practical sense is Roger Federer, the tennis player, was giving a commencement speech last year. And I think he said something like, he's lost, I think he said something crazy like he's only won 70 to 80% of games, but he's lost like 40 to 50% of points. Like there was some crazy statistic he said where he's lost a really high proportion of points. And his point was being the best doesn't mean not losing a point.
Yeah.
It means I just focus on the next one rather than being focused on the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most of us, when we make a mistake, we're so focused on that last mistake we made that we can't bring ourselves to focus on the task at hand. And guess what? You just make another mistake.
Yeah.
Then you make another mistake because you're constantly worried about the last one. And so I think when we're trying to be mindful and we're trying to do all of these things, there has to be a high standard, because the high standard is why you're able to lead and people are able to learn. But at the same time, there has to be a high grace. And so I think you're the perfect people to host it because of that. And don't ever lose it. Keep it forever, you know. And I feel the same way as you do today. I deal with it all the time. I worry that I'm, you know, not X enough, not Y enough, not Z enough, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I always want to feel that way because it proves to me that I haven't lost myself. I haven't kind of drunk the Kool-Aid and bought into my own hype and, you know, started living an inauthentic life. It's great that I question my motives, and it's great that I check in on myself.
Yeah. I love that Federer thing so much.
Yeah, I need to get the stats right.
Yeah,
I completely lost it. I remember, like, I wrote something about it because it was so powerful, but it's an insane statistic of where he's lost a really high proportion of points.
Yeah.
And
you're in it to win the game.
Yeah.
Not each point.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this the other day. She's very hard on herself like this. She was talking about her, you know, her list of goals for each year.
Yeah.
And how she was disappointed because she didn't hit a couple of them. And I, you know, have to remind her, like, first of all, you had a long list. Second of all, when you created the list, you said you were going to put simple ones and you were going to put, like, crazy ones. And when she doesn't hit a couple of the crazy ones, she's, like, disappointed.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so true.
Yeah.
You know, you can be more like Federer.
Yeah, I guess so. I am also realizing now, though, which is crazy, I'm just now realizing it because we've been talking about it this, like, past month, is those things that I didn't hit, actually, I had no control over.
Right.
They, like, I literally, like, it wasn't up to me to make that happen.
There's nothing you could have done that would have changed the outcome of the things I'm thinking of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why are we just thinking of this?
That's a life lesson in
Wow.
itself.
Okay.
Don't let things outside your control
Yeah.
get you, you know, and eat you
Yeah,
up
we
like
say we
that.
say that all the time, but I didn't realize it also applied to that.
Yeah.
Wow. I need to just
love
clip
that.
the last, like, 10 minutes and I'm just going to play it every day for myself. Oh my gosh. That's so good.
That was good. Can we talk tour?
Yes, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is shocking to me. This is the first time you're taking the podcast on tour?
Yeah, we've never done it before.
Wow.
Yeah, never ever done it. That's why I'm so excited about it, because I just feel like you both know this, having a podcast, it's the community is so deep. They're with you all the way. You're in their ears. And it's been 6 years of the podcast this year.
Wow.
And so I feel like we've got 6 years of community, you know, hundreds of millions of billions of streams and downloads, and just being able to go and meet all those people, look people in the eye, have them have a personal experience of the podcast. And, you know, I'm just excited to take the show on the road and have these kind of conversations in person. I hope you both will join me.
For sure.
Just to really, just to give people a sense of what it feels like to be in the room.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you could just imagine, like, everyone's here and with us right now, like, what would that feel like?
It's going to be special.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
I can't believe that's so cool. That's going to be awesome. Why would you say it took this long to do it? And what was it now that felt like the right time to do it?
I think that it was probably a bit of imposter syndrome, going back to that. Like, there's a feeling of there's a feeling of having wanted to do something for a period of time where then it feels like, now I'm worthy, right? We all have that imposter syndrome of, like, I was like, okay, we got to 5 years, like, you know, now, and it shouldn't be that way. I think the pandemic probably played a part. If I'm completely honest, I think it's because I am craving human connection so much.
Right now in your life?
In my life. I'm just wanting to look people in the eye. I want to hold people's hands if I can. I want to invite people up on the stage with us. I want to see the connection that you don't get to see. And for me, it's been a big focus of trying to do that. I went on a world tour for my book 2 years ago in 2023, which was so much fun. But I was like, the podcast is the experience that people are tuned into every week.
Yeah.
So the reaction's going to be even more. When people came out the book tour, no one had read the book yet.
Yeah.
Because the book was new.
Right.
But this is like, okay, these are people that are listening every single week. So I'm just craving connection with my community. I love how they rally behind each other. I love how there's a... I also think that one thing that happened last time that I believe will happen even more from the tour is I want people to leave that room with more new friends. I want people to leave the space with new connections because they do the same thing every week.
Yeah.
They all tune into the same podcast. They all listen to the same episodes.
Yeah.
Who better than to connect with than someone that's doing the same thing as you? And sometimes your own friends and family may not be that, but everyone in that room is. And so I'm excited to see the community that it builds and brings. And I'm just, I've never been this excited about anything for a long time now. And
I'm excited
I'm
for
pumped.
you.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward
I
to it.
definitely need to come.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to be there.
When do you start, June?
So we start in May, finish in June.
Okay.
We're doing 15 cities for right now across North America.
Wow.
And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I
real
got some really
special
exciting surprise guests, both in health and wellness, athletes, celebrities. Like it's a mix of guests. And I think everyone's going to have an awesome time. Yeah, it's going to be unforgettable.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited. Yeah, we'll definitely go.
Yeah,
We'll need to be there.
It'd be my honor.
This has been, sorry to all of our past guests, truly, I think my favorite podcast yet. You're obviously, an amazing speaker and you know your craft so well, but it's just, you're just so like real. And like, I just feel like, it feels like a normal conversation talking with you.
It's a good thing he has humility because you've really just been building him up this whole time.
Well, you never know we never know what we're going to get. A majority of our guests, we don't know. And so it's just like, I really just felt like we were like, getting lunch with a friend, just like,
thank you.
Getting to
Well, we should do
learn
that
about
too
you.
together.
I would
It'd
love
be
that.
nice to do that.
I would love that.
Sign
No,
us
you
up.
guys make it very easy. I think that's credit to both of you. You guys create such a wonderful atmosphere, wonderful energy. You both, have such sincere and sweet souls and intentions. It's evident. So it's easy to be like that with you. And I honestly, I've never taken for granted anyone connecting with my work. I honestly have never, because I know what it feels like to speak to an empty room.
Yeah.
I've done that. My first ever talk I gave at a university was 4 empty walls and there was no one in the room, and I practiced my speech. And so when there was one person or 2 people, or today, whatever it is, it's like I'm still as touched by anyone thinking my work is meaningful or helpful to them, because I live in a world where I remember a time when no one cared or no one listened. So I'm touched by both of your love and appreciation for anything I've done. And I'm excited to do that lunch for real. So we've got to set that up. Genuinely,
Roddy.
I'd love that. Yes, yeah. I'd love for you guys to meet Roddy.
Yes, I would
you
love
guys
to meet her.
you will so get along. She's always too hard on herself too.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's sweet.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank
and,
you.
Excited we'll see you on tour.
Absolutely. See you on tour. Thank you so much.